Welcome to another edition of Swim Easy Speed, and this is the Magnolia Masters Pro Camp video analysis, and we're going to be with pro triathlete Josh Monda. So what I'm going to do is just let the video play. You'll get to see all the video that we shot of Josh, and then we'll just go back to the beginning and start to break it down, and then go over a little bit of what we did to try and correct the issues that we identified, really just issue that we identified, and kind of go from there. So here we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll back it up and just go to the beginning. Just kind of start going over things and talking about it and looking at what we're trying to do here to make him a little bit faster. Okay, so here we are just swimming. And you can see, he's got a little bit of a lopsided stroke. He tends to get caught right there on the pole. That's probably a combination of, it looks like the hips aren't moving a ton with the shoulders. So it could be, the hips are very, very tight from a lot of cycling and running, which is preventing them from kind of going together. So then you get that where you get stuck in the middle of the stroke on the pole. In general, here's kind of the angle he is on the water. So, this is all drag. Now, he probably, and he didn't, look at that kind of an angle in the water, because you can see, it looks like it's from here to here is a little bit less than from here to here. Now, what this is pointing to, and I've gone over this before on other videos, is, the endless pool, the current is keeping us like this. Some of that current, though, is leaking over the back and kind of pressing down the feet and hips more than they normally would in a pool. Now, what is that indicating? So it's indicating one of two things, or two things that are tied together. The first is the core isn't engaged enough or isn't strong enough to hold us up against that current. The second thing is that the legs aren't as neuromuscularly connected to the core as they could or should be. So, it's not one unit that's swimming together. He's got, the legs are doing one thing, the upper body's doing another, the core is doing something else. And so he's just kind of bleeding a little bit of efficiency because it's not this, integrated, connected, coordinated stroke from top to bottom. And the only way that integrated, coordinated stroke happens is by swimming. Neuroscientists have a shorthand for it: neurons that wire together, neurons that fire together, wire together. And it's just, look, you make the movement, the brain kind of recognizes, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. How do we make it more efficient? You just get more and more efficient by doing it. So then we kind of go along. His breath looks pretty good. He's just sneaking in the breath right there, not over rotating to get it. And we'll look at kind of some of the other stuff underwater. Here's one thing. He's looking, it looks like he's kind of looking about there. I guess I'd just like to see, part of this is just, the body position that he's on, which changes a lot of stuff. So we're kind of at that angle. So you can see how the chin is kind of down a little bit. So it's kind of going that way. And it'd be better just if it was up just slightly. Probably relaxes his neck and shoulders a little bit more. And then if we take a look here, and now Josh is left-handed. So, here, this is pretty decent. So on the right side, we've got, we'll use this one. We've got basically wrist below elbow, elbow below shoulder. It's a little bit dropping right there on this extension. So we'd like to see, again, if all of this was up, this would be a lot easier to get into that position to start out with, and then set that catch, and then really just pull ourselves forward. But again, that's being impacted by body position. So again, you can see, we're pretty good. There's that. Little bit of drop right there in the elbow, but, and then he's kind of just pressing down. We'll get a better view from the front underwater. You'll get to see a little bit better what's going on. But yeah, all in all, that's not bad. Just a little bit. There's that drop kind of in the head right there. You just want to try to keep the water line of your body as close to the surface as possible for as long as possible. So anytime we start to go down like this, the water line starts going down, you're shrinking the water line. You're going to have less distance per stroke. You're going to have take more strokes. You're going to have more drag that happens. So, we really want to try to do everything we can to get up on the water. And then here you get to see kind of the legs, and you can see how the feet and the legs just don't look terribly connected to the body. And then, because he's breathing to the one side, he's breathing to the left. So you can see he gets that rotation there, but there isn't kind of the same amount of rotation on the right side. All right. So here, oddly enough, you can see this movement right here, where everything is kind of, his body line's going that way. It's kicking this hip out, even though the arm is relatively straight. It's all of this going in that direction. You can see this right here. So then this is all extra drag that he's creating on the water, more than he needs to be. And then, he's not going straight. So if we go forward a little bit more, let's go forward. So there, you can see kind of on this left side, we've got, more of a straight line running down his body, this kind of going straight forward. And this is really the importance of where the core kind of fundamentally comes into all this. Because not only are the core going to provide you stability in the water, having that core engaged, it's going to provide better body position, and it's really going to just coordinate everything together. So from top to bottom of the stroke, it's what allows the brain, so the core being engaged is what allows the brain to coordinate all the limbs of our body together. And the more you can get it to engage, because we're, in this really dynamic, unstable environment, the better you're going to be, the more efficient you're going to be. And then you can see kind of when he takes the breath, here's the instability from the breath. Basically overwhelming his core's ability to kind of compensate. So his feet come apart. There's other things that'll go on, and I'll show you those in a second. But that's kind of where he's losing out on some efficiency. Okay, so here we go. We'll take a look at this. So here is, I'm going to check this angle of his shoulder off the plane of the water. So there's the plane of the water. There's his shoulder rotation. So when he breathes, he's almost 60 degrees. Typically, what we like to see with really, really good distance swimmers is somewhere in the 30 to 40 degree range. And, we can talk about why in a second. It's easier to show you underwater. But that's typically what we're looking at. When you start rotating that much to get the breath, where your whole body goes with the rotation of your head, you start adding in a lot of instability into the stroke that quite frankly, your core can't compensate for. And so you just become less and less efficient. And that's what we want to think about is an athlete is only able to be the most efficient they can be, can only generate the most amount of power that they can generate. Doesn't matter if you're swimming, biking, running, cycling, basketball, baseball, football. Does not matter the sport. If you are unstable or as that instability increases, your efficiency, your ability to generate power is going to go down. Okay, so so you can see on this one, this is about where we want to be. Okay. Now, it'd be better if his head wasn't buried there. But that's about where we want to be on the water when we're swimming. And let's see, we'll go to the underwater now. Okay. So in the data that we were able to collect, what we found out was, I think it was the left was generating more power than the right. So you can see the left here. It's pretty deep. Typically we'd like to see that at around, 100 to 110 degrees. So if we figure, kind of here is midline, you can see how far away from midline his hand is. So he just has a diminished amount of basically power on the water. So here's kind of where the shoulder would be, kind of that's the outside. So, we want to be somewhere kind of in here with our hand in terms of getting the most amount of power on the water. You can see kind of the foot coming apart here. The other one is somewhere over here. So that's all just extra drag that he's creating with each stroke. And then on the right, you can see again, foot coming out. The other one's way over there. All of this is drag that he's now pulling against. And then because of this big turn, so here's midline now, about right there. And his hand is way out here. You can see how much farther away from midline and where potentially all of the leverage could be, his hand is. So the farther we get away from right here, the less power we're going to be able to generate. And it's certainly not going to be power that we're generating to go forward. Because right here, he's just trying to stabilize his body in the water. Just trying to find some stability in this dynamic, unstable environment to move forward. So then you can see on, this side, here, let's go back to a non-breathing one. All right. So here we are out here. So there we are at about 145 degrees. So again, pretty far out in terms of where we want to be, where we want to be closer to 100, 110. So then we'll keep on going forward. And I think we see the data next. That's what I put in this video. Yeah. Okay. So here's his data. And so what we're looking at here is from the EO Lab Swim Better swim sensors. And so, it's giving us an idea of, how efficient he is. So of the total amount of power that he's generating, so it's 2.65 newtons on the left, 1.89 on the right. Here's where he's directing this power. So here's a graphical representation. Some of it is going like that. This splashing out like that is just downward. And then that's the left side. Blue is the right. Orange is the left. So you can see that propulsion is 12%. Most of the power that he's generating is going into downward. So he's pressing down on the front of the stroke. And, I see this a lot. Typically, the best swimmers in the world, you're going to be at, propulsive is going to be at about 75%. This is going to be, somewhere in the 15 to 20% range. You can't eliminate downward. Hand drag is going to be 0. Upward will be, 1 to about maybe 2 or 3. This we try to get to 0. This we try to get to 0 because we want as much of that power going into propulsion as possible. And what that would look like is instead of this like that, we would see just these very, very straight lines going straight back. And that's a lot of this is just to compensate for the instability in his stroke. So that's what's robbing him of kind of propulsion. So, and then we can go forward a little bit more. So here it is broken down on the left. So you can see, he's left-handed. On the left side, more of the propulsion is, he's a little bit more efficient on the left side. Still a lot of downward, still pushing some to the left, some to the right. And what we're looking at is just an individual stroke within the full spread of what we recorded. So kind of like the beginning, middle of when we were doing this. Here's the right. So you can see he's just not very propulsive on the right. And you could see, that happening in the stroke if you really, really look at it. 1.9 and then, just all going out this direction. So, he's pushing it all out leftward on the right side. Okay. So yeah, that's some of the areas what we're trying to do. We're trying to give him enough stability where he can then drive all of that stroke straight back. Here is what each stroke looks like from so this is about the same spot we were looking at. So we're at about 15 seconds into the recording to about 30 seconds in. And, you can see kind of some of the variation. We get peaks like this, when you get a little up and down, like, for instance, that one right there. So this down and then up. That's in the middle of the stroke. He's dumping pressure off the hand. And again, all of these diminished peaks right here, these are all just him compensating for instability that he's creating. And then if we go forward, you'll be able to see kind of how much is going laterally. So you can see a lot of just that propulsion that he's generating on the right is just going laterally instead of into a propulsive kind of phase. A little bit less on the left. So then here's kind of the stroke pattern. So this is a right stroke. And what we can see here is, here's where the downward is. Here's kind of the pull where it's propulsive. This is the upward. This is an overhead view right here. So you can see it kind of comes a little bit wide and out instead of just straight back. And then here's the front view. So if you're looking at the front of the stroke, you can see, where he's pressing down and then how it kind of angles out that way. And then on the left, again, same thing. There's the downward. Here's propulsion. There's upward. Then here you could see, hey, driving it that way so it's not straight back. And then again, on the overhead, same kind of thing. I think there's one more. Let's see. And then here, I guess there wasn't one more. Here is what we did was, the first thing we did was kick with the brick and fins. And what we're trying to do is just smash the core. Really force it to engage. You don't give it any other choice but to engage. And the brick is a weighted kickboard. You got to cue the athlete properly to get them to really engage. Because again, remember, we're training the brain. We're training the brain on how to make this movement. And the cues you give make a big, big difference in how the brain recruits different muscle groups. So that's really, really important, how you cue the athlete in terms of getting the core to engage. And then what we're trying to do is recruit the other muscle group. So kick. Okay? We want to make this a full body, connected, coordinated movement. Okay? So you can see we went through a couple rounds of this, and he was getting better. Then we went into this position 11 drill just to try and get everything to go a little bit straighter and give him a feel for that. And you can see he's still struggling a little bit with trying to do that. But, we were able to go along, and he made some pretty good gains in the camp and had a better idea what he needed to work on when he went back and started to get back into his training at home. So, this is the first video. We had, I think it was 9 athletes total. 8 or 9 athletes total that we had come to the camp this year. And yeah, I'll do one video for each athlete coming up. And if you guys have any questions about this, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer questions. That's the whole reason I'm doing this, is so hopefully you guys can learn a little bit and see what we're doing with pro triathletes to help make them better. And some of those lessons will be applicable to you too. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you at the pool soon.